What's going on, Niner fam? It is your boy Peter Lucas, and I got with me today a guy that needs no introduction. We've got Mike Andrews from the Nothing But Niners podcast. Hey, Mike, I'm stoked to have you here today. Like right after the draft, it's all fresh and it's all new. Uh, but hey, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you, as if they didn't already know?
Yeah, guys, if you have not already subscribed, please check out our YouTube page. It is Nothing But Niners. You can find it by searching NBN or NB9ERS, or you can type it all the way out, Nothing But Niners. We would appreciate all of the support. Shout out to everybody in the chat, for the people jumping in and everything, for the people on Twitter, or I'm sorry, X, as they call it now. We are Nothing But Nine, the number 9, ERS. We support we appreciate all of the support. Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. And before we get into everything else, we just got to hit the music.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I like to know,
are you ready for start time?
And once again, it is Peter Lucas here at the Niner Fanatic podcast with our guy, Mike Andrews from Nothing But Niners. And make sure you give the video a like. Make sure that you give it a subscribe. Make sure that you hit the bell so you get the notifications for when I go live. But Mike, so the draft happened last week. It was kind of a really long first round for me. Like we watched the whole first round. We streamed during live with my guy Beto and Jess and everybody else over at East Coast Red and Gold. But I want to start off. With the we were talking about everybody's giving out their draft grades and everything already. What I think a better question for right now for everybody is, and I just lost it, is not so much like what's your draft grade, but who's going to make the team. Like after we look at all these things, we know the 49ers are a Super Bowl contender. So it's not even a question really of how many guys of these guys are going to really start. Who's going to make the team?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because like you said, the roster's already stacked, right? Yeah, I don't think anybody out there would be surprised if only 4 or 5 of these guys made the team.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't be surprised if 8 to 10 of these guys, including the undrafted free agents, end up making the team. It's all about where these people come from, and how they're going to be utilized, right? And if you start looking at the wide receiver position, I think it's safe to say Pearsall and Cowing make the team. And so that means that you're going to have guys like Tay Martin on the bubble, potentially Danny Gray. I know he's a popular name that people are throwing out there, but before I even get to a guy like Danny Gray, I want to get to the guys like Trent Taylor, Tariq Owens. Those are the guys that I feel, pretty confident saying they're not going to make this roster. Jawan Jennings and the 49ers have a really good relationship in the last year of his deal. Brandon Ayuk is playing under his 5th-year contract right now. They're talking about extensions. We don't know what's going to happen with that, but Pearsall's not going anywhere. And I think Jacob Cowan gives the Niners another nice real option out of the slot, does things very different than what Jawan Jennings would do. Then that leaves you with a guy like Chris Conley. What's he going to do? Is he going to be a part of this and all?
I like
Ronnie
him.
Bell. Right. Well, yeah, Chris Conley's a savvy vet, right? Like you want to hold on to a guy like that, but you just don't know, right? And then Ronnie Bell. Ronnie Bell is like, what is he going to? This guy had 6 catches, but 3 of them were for touchdowns. He tried to show a little bit of return ability. We weren't really wowed by it, but he's showing that he's willing to go and do whatever the Niners ask him to do, right? Those are the kind of guys that are going to be hard to just write off. And he's someone that they invested a draft pick in as well. Like, are they going to want to just let him go? I don't know. But I feel safe saying those 2 wide receivers make it and someone else goes. The next position that is going to be really fun to look at is going to be the center position, right? You have one guy who was a starter on a championship team, undrafted guy, right? But Drake Nugent, right? So he's coming in here as an undrafted free agent, but
Oh, yeah,
centers
Michigan.
don't typically get, they
Go
don't
blue.
typically get drafted high anyway, right?
Mhm.
You got Hall of Famers like Jeff Saturday, who were undrafted by the Ravens and then cut, and then goes on to have a Hall of Fame career with Peyton Manning over in Indianapolis, right? So this is not unusual. It's not uncommon. You've got Jake Brindle, and then you've got Corey Luciano ahead of him on the depth chart. He can make this roster. He can
Mhm.
absolutely make this roster. Dominic Puny. There's a lot of people that have him penciled in as the starting right guard. Just boom, straight off the bat, right? Like Spencer
That's
Burford,
wild to
no
me.
more. Yeah, right. Like what happened, right? Like John
Yeah.
Feliciano, no more. Just boom, Puny's here. He's going in. Possible, but he should be safe to make the roster at least, right? I think he can get ahead of guys like Nick Zakel at guard, Ben Barch. You know what I mean? Like I think he can get
Mhm.
ahead of those kind of guys. And then you got to look down a little bit of a ways, the running back room. Christian McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell, you kind of feel like they're
Death
safe. A lot of
match.
people would feel like Jordan Mason's safe, but Isaac Garindo is not going anywhere. I don't think this guy is going anywhere. He's a little bit bigger than what people give. People see his speed, and I think they assume he's smaller.
221 pounds.
This is a truck moving at you that fast. Like this
Yeah.
is, he's going to be a good guy on the goal line and in open space. And then he was working on his catching. He improved that his last year in college. I'm hoping that a guy like him sticks around. I really, really am. I'm going to flip over to the defensive side really quick. And by the way, that's no disrespect to Pline, the undrafted tight end.
Yeah.
No
You are
disrespect to you, Cody
undrafted for a
Schrader.
reason.
Right.
Like-
No disrespect to Cody Schrader, the other running back that we brought in. But I want to flip over to the defensive side of the ball. We did a show today and we talked about Evan Anderson. I don't know. Wayne likes this guy a lot more than I do. I'm really high on Malik Collins. I think Kevin Givens can kind of make his way here. Kalia Davis, those guys should be pretty solid in there. But we also have Gross Matos that the Niners just brought in, right? Are they really going to be willing to move on from a guy like Robert Beal Jr.? And Alex Barrett, for whatever reason, consistently makes this team. I don't know what he does well, but he is always around. He's the new.
solid.
He's a new.
He's
Is
solid and he's serviceable. Like that's the thing is you can put him out there. You can put him out there and he's not going to mess up.
Right.
That's all. Like
all right,
that's why
we'll see.
that's why he's that yeah, I feel like that's why he's out there is that he's at the very least he's not going to mess up.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So that, I mean, and you feel good about a guy like that, like someone who's going to come out there and be solid. Malik Mustafa. I'm sorry, Malik. I've been saying it wrong.
Yeah.
Malik.
Everybody been saying it wrong.
Yeah. I think he's got a shot because of the lingering injury to Hufunga. You got the rookie Jair Brown, and you got a couple of older guys back there behind him. You know what I mean? So I think he's got a good shot at making it. And then the right cornerback, and I don't know if they're going to plug him in at nickel or what, but Renardo Green. He's got a solid shot at making the roster as well. So that's what one, two.
How do you feel about Renardo Green? Because I get
All right.
I just real quick. I get real bad Ambry Thomas vibes. And like because he sounds exactly like Ambry Thomas did when Ambry Thomas came in. All like talking all kinds of stuff. And I'm this, I'm that. He looks like a press man corner. What was Ambry Thomas supposed to be? A press man corner. And then what really gave me pause was Eric Crocker locked on. Big shouts out to Croc. I mean, he got on the Locked On show and said that this is, the 49ers use mainly cover 4 and like cover 3 looks, like it's mainly zone. So how is he going to play in off coverage? So that's always something to look at. I'm going to be really interested in training camp, seeing how he kind of goes into that whole transition.
Well, yeah, I mean, so here's the crazy thing, right? When you watch his highlight reel, I'm choosing my words carefully. When you watch his highlight reel, you like him, right? Of course, it's a highlight reel. You're supposed to like what you see. Then when you start looking at some film and some breakdowns of him, I see a guy who is very handsy, and I don't know how much of that he's going to get away with at this level. especially for the 49ers. I think officials love to tag our corners a lot. And so he's going to have to learn to get his head around quick enough and things like that in the NFL. I like the feistiness. I like the fight. I like that he likes to run hip to hip with players. You know what I mean? He doesn't let guys get away from him a whole lot. But I'm a little up and down with him. When I like what a guy does on the field, it's usually a bad thing for that guy. Especially at the corner position in particular. My guys were, Dante Johnson, Akello Witherspoon. Like, these are guys that most people couldn't wait to get away from. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I like what I see. I don't know if it's going to work out for him at this level. He looks like Diamador Lenore, but more like aggressive, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it does. Like, and I'm kind of the same way. I love aggressive players, and I think that it's that's part of what the regime has all been about, is physical and aggressiveness, especially in the defensive side. And I love it when they get in players' face. I love Demo. I love the fact that he's just looking to hit somebody. But like you said, there's times when they can get overly. But I would much rather dial it back than have to convince a guy to get more physical, like we used to have to do with the Keller Witherspoon. Like the wishy-washiness, I can't get with the wishy-washiness. So I'd much rather train them to dial it back, because I feel like Demo's done a pretty decent job at that. Of just because when he first came in, I felt like he was trying to do too much, and now he's just. Yeah, now he's kind of tempered, and he knows when he can kind of stick that physical side in. Like when he lined up that one shot to the chest last season, and I can't remember what team that was against. Was it
the Eagles?
Yeah, I want to say it was the Eagles. Like when he lined up that perfect shot, that's what I'm talking about. He knows when to do it. He's not like Greenlaw, when Greenlaw just looking to hit anybody and looking to throw anybody. Any chance he can get, anybody can get it. So, yeah, Renardo Green is I think he's going to be a work in progress. But the 49ers have so many options. I mean, we haven't even seen what Darrell Luter can do, and supposedly they really like Darrell Luter. We haven't seen. We don't know what happened with Sam Womack. He's on a milk carton somewhere. And I mean, there's just so many players. I mean, Yadam, everybody was high on him when they signed him. And Rock Ya-Sin, I think, is going to be a valuable vet piece that we don't know is he going to play mainly special teams. Like, what are they going to do with him? And and then you've got your all pro on the other side. So I think this is the best cornerback room we've had in the Shanahan regime for sure.
You know what's weird is I wonder if people are still high on Rock Ya-Sin because of what they thought of him coming out the draft a couple years ago. I don't see it. Like I'm not trying to be rude or anything. And maybe he was misused in the system. Systems make everything go around. You know what I mean? But I just haven't been impressed with him the last couple of seasons. So we'll see what happens. I'll tell you what, this is definitely the most competitive back room that we've had since Shanahan has been here, for sure. It wasn't like you got Richard Sherman and then everyone else just kind of coming and going in there, right? Like, I feel like they really like Ward and Demo, but everyone else is like, the separation isn't much, so it's going to make for the cream rising to the top. That's really what's going to happen.
I think there's multiple guys in this situation that we consider already better than Ambry Thomas. So, and I don't even think we've seen Luter really play yet. And I think everybody's already got him slated over Ambry Thomas already. So and I feel bad for Ambry, because I feel like he really tried this last season. I felt like he came out on fire, and then he's a guy that lets his emotions get the best of him sometimes, just because he seems like, as if he misses one tackle or makes one mistake, it snowballs on him, and he just can't get it back.
Yeah, to that point, he's so streaky, right? He'll have a stretch where it's like, oh man, that's why we drafted him. That's what we want to see. Keep that right there. Keep doing that. And then all of a sudden it's like, dude, what are you doing, man? Like you showed so much promise. Like you were right there. Like, come
Yeah.
on, man. And like you said, he kind of, it kind of feels like he kind of melts down, or teams start picking on him, whatever it is. Maybe it's matchups and teams realize they have a little mismatch on him. But he's one of those guys that you want to cheer for. I don't like that we write him off so quickly, and myself included, right? Like I don't like that we write him off so quickly, but I mean, it's not about us, about what the coaches see. And it's going to be also interesting to see how the secondary is valued this year now that what's his name? Oh God. The DC last year. Wilkes.
Oh,
now that Wilkes is
yeah.
gone. Yeah. Now that Wilkes
How
is gone, I
soon
want
we
to see
forget.
well, but I want to see how they
How did you feel about Wilkes? I mean, I'm really interested to hear your take on it, because I feel like we I've watched your show many times. I feel like we have very similar views on the team in general. So like how did you feel about Wilkes?
I was not happy about the hiring from the moment it happened. To give a guy a loaded defense the way that we had and what we were projected to have, that defensive line should have been way more productive. And I'm not just talking about sacks. Like quarterbacks had all day back there. It was a play or two here or there where we got really good pressure. It was never anywhere near as consistent as it should have been. And for the defensive line to have as many assets thrown its way, the secondary was actually better than the defensive line. And in no world would I have predicted that to happen. Wilkes just didn't have the experience as a defensive coordinator for me. I think he had one season maybe in the entire NFL being an actual defensive coordinator. And that's just not it. You don't just go give a guy a job like that. I wish I knew what went into the hiring. I don't want to say I was against it. I was pessimistic at best when we hired him, and it kind of went the way I thought it was going to go, man. I mean, it started really rough. You heard the whole, he's got to come down on the field. He's got to come down on the field. And when he came down on the field, I mean, yeah, we won some games and we put up, the opposing teams put up a little less points, but it didn't really make that big of a difference. The issues still remain the issues all season long. The inconsistent pressures, teams constantly converting the third and longs on us. Like it was a nightmare, man. I don't know, man. And then you see the worry on Kyle's face when the defense is messing up. I don't know if camera crews started focusing more on it or what, but like a 3rd and 9, 3rd and 18 against the Lions, and they zoom right in on Kyle's face. He's like, "You got to be fucking kidding me!" Like you could see it. He's saying,
Kyle can't hide anything. He doesn't hide anything when the game is going on. He's not hiding nothing. And I agree with you. Like I was happy about the hire initially, just because of everything that people said about him in Carolina. But then I was immediately out by like the third game, because I just can't. I was looking at the way that our defense was playing, all the off coverage, all of the just the soft zone, and it just felt like our guys weren't aggressive. He was taking away. It felt like he was taking away all the aggressiveness out of the defense and like kind of tying their hands behind their back. I saw a lot of guys on islands, and it was one guy. There was one guy trying to tackle, and in the past, 2 defensive coordinators, there was a real swarm mentality. And I mean, D'Amico like kind of coined the phrase, but yeah, it was a real swarm mentality. It wasn't, guys were encouraged to go full bore at the guy. If you miss, it's okay. Somebody gonna be there to clean it up. And that was gone. There was no more of that, because if one guy missed a tackle, that guy was going, the offensive player was going to get about 6-7 yards, and that was just what it was. But I want to mention everybody in the chat. I appreciate y'all for coming out. I see Bash in there. Appreciate you, 49er Minded. Make sure you give my guys subscribe. Fluffy Ninja in the house. Daniel Barry Sports. I recognize him from me and Beto's. And then 49ers Chanel, MBH, Captain Niner Massey. Appreciate all of you for coming out. And but yeah, I look at
captain.
Yeah, I love the hat. I love the hat. But I look at a couple of the other things that you mentioned, and we're talking. I really look at this running back room. I feel like that's going to be a death match, because there's just so much talent So much talent there. And
Mhm.
a lot, I mean, people forget how talented Elijah Mitchell is, I think. And because he can't stay on the field. But I mean, he's going to have something to say in training camp. He's not going to be injured in training
Oh
camp.
yeah. We hope. Knock on wood.
I mean, but he's
knock
not
on wood
usually.
right now.
He waits till the games start. You know what I'm saying? Like he always wait. He waits until week 2. Week
Mhm.
2, he's got for 6 weeks. And he
The
looks
crazy thing
beautiful.
is, when he got here, when Christian McCaffrey got here, we got to see them a little bit more that first year. And I said straight up, as a pure ball carrier, I actually liked Elijah Mitchell a little bit more than I did Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey was getting his due to high volume and then busting a couple of big ones, right? So his numbers always looked good. But as far as like a down in and down out, Elijah Mitchell was just dominant. He seemed very explosive, very decisive. And I loved what I was seeing from him, you know. He's not going to go out without a fight. This is a big year for him. And we got to remember something too. The Niners like to draft guys a year earlier than they need them to start. You guys think back to Aaron Banks, right? When we drafted him, I know there was all this, system fit doesn't make any sense. And then he couldn't crack the starting lineup. People were like, oh man, what a bust. No, they knew they were letting Laken Tomlinson go the following year. And so, boom, he came in right away, and he's been serviceable, right? I'm not saying that that's what Garindo is going to be, Christian McCaffrey's replacement, but he very well could be. Kyle Shanahan loves Christian McCaffrey, and I think if there was any complaint about him at all this year, it was that he was being used too much. We saw Mason come in, and he looked like a solid ball carrier, like the finisher that is what we were calling him at one point during the season. And Kyle was like, yeah, so what? I don't care. Like, Christian McCaffrey's here. He's getting this money. He's going to go out there every time.
30
And
carries.
he was running my man
catches.
to the damn ground. Yeah, exactly. So, we got to see how it plays out. But that running back room is going to be so much fun to watch. I'm talking about like the fourth quarter of every preseason game is going to be like, all right, who's here for it? You know what I mean? Like, we got to see who's fighting for this spot now. And I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait for that. Like, because I think that Jordan Mason's been my guy, and I get it. I get it that he can't pass block. I understand. I understand that he runs wrong routes. He just does not understand the offense at all. But I will tell you this: you give the man a dive play, and he's gonna get you 5.5.
Yeah.
He's gonna get you 5.5, and with a stacked box. He don't care. And that's his value. Is when you need it, he's going to get it for you. And I just feel like that's a guy that they can use until, Isaac Orendo, he's got the size. Let's see if he has the aggression that Jordan Mason does. Because Jordan Mason, the first guy is not going to tackle him. That man is he has got to be one of the most aggressive runners that I've seen in a long time. And somehow, knock on particle board, whatever. He just does not get dinged up. I mean, he doesn't play a lot, but I mean, he just doesn't get. He plays special teams, and Elijah Mitchell gets hurt running on the field. So I think,
and I see. I see the question here from Diamond D. Why didn't the kid from Missouri get drafted? He looks good. I'm assuming he's talking about Schrader.
Oh, yeah, Schrader.
The running back.
Because his numbers were terrible. Not his numbers, but his stats, his combine numbers were terrible. I mean, you can't be running a 4.6.
Right. And you also got to remember, guys, running backs, interior linemen, they don't typically get drafted really high unless you were like that dude. Coming out of the draft. And when I say that dude, I'm talking like first round, second round guys, and then it's a big drop off. And so if you look like you're a good running back, you're just a good running back, which means you're talking 6th or 7th round. And if teams have already gone out there in the mid rounds, the early, 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounds and got their guys, you're going to go undrafted likely. So that I think that's why he didn't get drafted. I'm pretty sure he had a lot of other teams looking at him though as a priority free agent, undrafted free agent.
I think in the past he probably would have gotten drafted, back in the 90s, even early 2000s. He probably would have got drafted, but
Mhm.
because it was more about what kind of football player you were. But nowadays, it's about your measurables, and it is about your draft position, like where they can get you,
Yeah.
because you got all these other positions that you had that teams need. It's all about need, and running back. It's proven that they can grab somebody undrafted, and he can be at least serviceable,
Mhm.
if not the world beater. Sometimes, I mean, where do we get Elijah Mitchell? We got him in the 6th round.
Yep.
Like, I mean, you got him in the 6th round, and he had almost 1,000 yards as a rookie.
Mhm.
So
That's right.
it's and Shanny has proven time and time again he can get production out of anything.
That's
Uh,
that was the rookie record too, right? For the
yeah,
49ers?
it was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
so it is what it is. But I like Schrader. I mean, he has ungodly numbers in college.
Yeah. Mhm.
Like, but it's college. I think people get caught up and they see the college numbers, and they don't. It's not. There's such a talent drop off when you're talking about college is the when you get into the pros, because those guys that you were trucking in college, you're not trucking them in the pros. That's not going to happen. So it's if you can't get there, if you can't eat up that space, you're going to get eaten, and that's just the way it goes. That's why I love Correndo. I feel like he is a space eater. If there is
Yeah.
any kind of gap between him and he's going to run up on them really fast, and that's what I saw when I watched his tape. Like, is that he's a guy that can get up on you so quickly. He's not the greatest at moving around you. He kind of trucks over people a lot, which I'm hoping that he gets that they give him a little bit of the what is this? What's our running back coach? Bobby Taylor treatment, like
Turner. Yeah.
Turner. Like, yeah, they give him some of he starts working with him a little bit and maybe give him some drills to run on just about going around guys. Cause right now he just runs full speed at the space but that can be a plus too. So, but
Yeah.
now as far as Ricky Pearsall, like I said, I'm not going to talk about draft grades, but I was not a fan of the pick because I felt like there was other position. It's not even about the need. It was position value for me. Like there were other players. I mean, you had A.D. Mitchell out there. I mean, something must have come out about A.D. Mitchell for him to fall as far as he did. And I don't know. Did you hear anything about A.D. Mitchell? Like, because I know that they were talking something right before the draft about him being difficult or something, and people were trying to blow it off like it was nothing. And then all of a sudden, he fell down the board like a rock.
Yeah. I couldn't tell you what exactly happened, man. It doesn't make much sense to me. But I will tell you this: when I saw Pearsall earlier, like like when I first started doing my draft research, uh, everything about him said he's a Niners guy. I even tweeted it out, in March sometime that the Niners were going to like. I said I'd like Keon Coleman. He's my favorite wide receiver in the draft, but they're probably going to go with a guy like Pearsall. And so that's exactly what they did. Now, did I expect him to go in the first round with them? No, but if you pay attention to the draft, it ended with wide receivers, and the first round ended with wide receivers. The second round started up with wide receivers again. If that's who the Niners wanted, they weren't going to get him later.
Mm.
There's no chance that he was going to be around in the 60s. So I'm not mad at them for going and getting their guy. Like that's
Yeah.
the guy that they clearly wanted. So I'm not mad at that. And that's the tough thing when you are talking about draft grades and stuff like that. When people want to say, "Oh, we reached or we did this or we did that," while I understand it, if your team gets their guy, it shouldn't really matter when they get him. Now, obviously, you're not going to take, unless you're the Raiders, you're not taking a kicker in the first round or anything like that, right? But you got to look at where you are picking, and if you have your heart set on a specific player, you got to know when you are going to be able to get him, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
And Omar had a good comment in there. I believe he was talking about Schrader, the diabetic who doesn't take care of himself, and also read that he has a character issue. And that's
Mm.
probably it. Like that's part of what the issue is. If you're not taking care of yourself, that is a character issue. If you're not watching what you eat and taking your medications the proper way, it's going to scare a lot of people off. So,
yeah. I mean, Kingsley Suamatai was my guy. I really wanted him for that offensive line. I really felt like but I mean, like I've said over and over and over again on my show, 49ers are never going to pick who you want, ever. They have the weirdest process that I have ever seen. It's almost like talent is like third on the totem pole of on the priority list. And like, because they get guys that don't test well, but they interview well, I guess. I don't think anybody's really cracked the code as to what a 49er guy actually is at this point. I mean, we can speculate. There's certain stats that you can point to, but I don't think anybody's like got it pinpointed yet. I don't know. Do you think can you pinpoint it yet?
No, the thing is, we only get the opportunity to look at tape. And so that's 100% what we base our judgments off of. But the Niners have these things called golden helmet guys, and it's about leadership and what they are in their community and things like that, and their football IQs and all that stuff. So without being able to sit down and talk to these guys to evaluate them, right? Like you are never going to be able to figure out what exactly drives them. When you look at some of the undrafted free agents that they picked out, you'll start to realize like, oh, that's probably why they really like this kid. Drake Nugent. They probably liked him because of his leadership and being a constant starter at various schools and everything, and a hard worker and a team captain before he transferred to Michigan. Like this, that's what they like. They want to know that a guy is dependable, high football IQ, and takes to coaching well. Those are things that aren't going to show up on film, because in college, if you're talented, the talent's going to shine above all of that. In college, it's easy to see when there's one guy who's just really, really good compared to the rest of who he's playing against and who he's playing with. But what you don't know is their work ethic. You don't know how they are off the field and what they are like in the locker room. So you hear a lot of John Lynch talking about, well, I talked to this coach for this team, and he said that, this guy is really good and he's a hard worker, right? It makes you wonder if they don't get that kind of report from the head coach. Are they willing to just ignore the talent altogether and say, oh, well, he's not a hard worker, or he doesn't take the coaching well, he's off our draft board, that even goes back to the Joe Williams draft, right? That when we took him, the Utah running back, John Lynch said straight up, he was off my board. When I found out that he left the team and didn't want to come back for a while, and he had his reasons why. John Lynch didn't like the reasons why, but Shanahan was like, no, I think he's going to be somebody. And it turns out that John Lynch was right. He's got a process and he's going to stick to it. I think he's learned from his mistakes. This is their seventh draft, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. This is their 8th draft. I think John Lynch and Kyle now all of a sudden value work ethic a little bit more than just talent. So they're looking for that weird combination of it.
It's got to be better than the last 2 drafts. Like the last 2 drafts have been, like, I mean, there is no excuse for last year's draft at all, in my opinion. Even though that they didn't have a pick till the 3rd round, like, I mean, they picked Jair Brown, and then it was almost like they said, "Okay, you guys got it. You guys got it. Like, we're gonna take off. Like, you guys let's just auto pick the rest of the way." Like, so yeah, that's wild. But out of these rookies, who's your impact? Who's the guy that makes a difference this season in your mind?
I'm going to go between the 2 wide receivers. It's whichever one they put in the slot more, right? If Pearsall is going to be a rotational guy, like when Ayuk wants to come out, who basically Ronnie Bell was last year, it's not going to be him. I think it's going to be whoever they decide to put in the slot when Juwan Jennings isn't going to be in the slot. Jennings is good for getting to his mark and making contested catches and things like that, but he's not going to give you a lot after the catch. Pearsall and Cowling will absolutely give you a lot after the catch. And I think that's where the biggest difference comes in, right? It's cool to have a chain mover. Excuse me. It's cool to have a chain mover. We've had it with Kendrick Bourne and Quentin Patton, and Juwan Jennings, even Trent Taylor, right? Like those are the guys that third and Jawan, right? Third down was Trent Taylor's thing his first year here. We had it with Kendrick Bourne. He was a third down guy. But it was get to the sticks or get close to it and fight for the extra yard or two afterwards. And that was basically it. These guys are going to give you a lot more explosiveness and a lot more elusiveness coming out of their breaks and going to be running with. I'm not saying Jennings doesn't run with bad intentions, but the speed is different and the cutting ability is different after they get the ball in their hands. So I think that's going to be the most immediate, the biggest impact as far as points scored. One guy that's going to go under the radar as far as someone who I think might produce early could be Dominic Puny. If he ends up being a starter, his presence is going to make guys like Spencer Burford, Feliciano, Nick Zakelj, right? He's going to make them have to play better. It's like, oh man, the team
Nick
invested
Zakelj
something
ain't
in
gonna
this
make
guy.
this team. I'm gonna put it out there right now. I'm gonna put it out there right now. Nick Zakelj is trash. He's been trash since last year. I don't know how he made the team last year.
Hey, don't get me lying, man. Don't get me lying, please.
What's up, Red Jet? Appreciate you.
Hey, there she is. So yeah, I'm gonna go with whichever guy is on in the slot. I think they're gonna give us like the most exciting plays of any of the rookies.
Yeah. I'm looking at. I think Cowing is going to be that guy that makes an impact, not just because of what he's going to do at the slot, but the return ability. I think the 49ers have been desperate to find a return man, and I think that is going to be. I think they may even, if he looks good doing it, I think they may even use him as not just a punt return, but maybe in the kick return game too with the new rules. I thought looking at the new rules that would be more of a running back role, just by the look of it, because it looks like a big running play. But I could see Cowing getting a running start and just finding the hole and going. So I'm gonna go with Cowing as my impact guy. But I will tell you, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Mustafa is going to make some plays this season. I think
got a cool ass name too.
Dog. This guy, he's angry.
Mm-hmm.
When I look at his tape, I see anger. And
I love it.
And normally I'm not a midriff dude. Like I put your shirt down, bro. Like but the man is yoked up. He's coming in with bad intentions, and he has very sound tackling ability. It's not uncontrolled. Like that's what I like about it is he's not coming in there just to make the big hit. You're coming down with me to this ground, and that's why I think that Mustafa, they're gonna find ways to get him involved. And he has a great mentality. I don't know if you heard any of his interviews, but great mentality. I love the kid, and it's So those are my two guys.
I actually watched his video not too long ago. I think it was earlier today when they welcome him to the team, and I forget the young lady's name that's doing the reporting for the 49ers now. But one of the things that he said that stood out to me was how they questioned him about how he learned the game and coaching and being able to draw up plays and read defenses, and then he focused on communicating to the rest of the people in the secondary. Though again, it goes back to the IQ thing, that stuff that we don't see on film, but that matters so much to the 49ers, right? That communication of that secondary is the most important thing. You don't have to be the most physically gifted person if you know what your assignment is and where you're supposed to be. And so if you can communicate well with each other, that's going to hold a lot more weight to the 49ers. Plus, you get that physical ability. Oh, man, like that's going to be a gym. So that's a really good pick, too. I like that.
Yeah, it's, people, I think that's an underrated part of Huff's game, was that I don't think anybody expected him to come in and take on a leadership role so quickly. Like coming in, like everybody was talking about. I mean, Gibson had a big old long talk about how that's his guy. Like he would always have him right on the field, and the communication between the two of them. that's going to be key. So, I mean, you got two guys out there that are communicating like that. And I think Jair Brown takes a big step forward this year as well. I think the rookie jitters are going to be gone. And I think he's going to play with more instinct. He's already an instinctual player. And I think he's going to come in looking nice. I think that these three safety looks are kind of here to stay in the NFL. If you want to play physical, you want to play the run, but still have some coverage in the back on the backside. I think that this is going to be. It's going to be. I think it's going to be the wave of the future. Not that teams aren't already doing it, but I don't know if a team has really figured out how to really work the true like a physical set, because the 49ers don't really have a one of those single high types. Like they just don't.
Right.
Like they don't
Yeah.
have a pure speed guy. All of their guys are tacklers. They all like to be near the line of scrimmage. They all looking to hit you. So
And they're all pretty slow when you stop
yeah,
and look at their times. It's like,
yeah,
what are y'all doing?
all of them.
I get so afraid when we play teams with like burners at wide receiver positions.
Yeah.
Like, and the Eagles were one of those teams, but we handled them pretty well. It started a little rough, and then all of a sudden it was only what they could get across the middle, right?
Mhm.
But when we were going up against teams like the Vikings, teams that have that elite speed and those elite wide receivers, I'm like, man, like, all right, it's cool with the corners, but what's going to happen if they get past one of them? Like, I just felt like it was going to go to the house every time because just the speed difference was so, the difference was just so bad. It was like, all right, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? But you have to be a stellar communicator, and the fact that they rotate those guys back and forth. One play you'll have Huff as a free back there. Then the next play he's up by the line, and you got Jair Brown back. It's like, all right, like, so I want someone to go out there and take that spot. I want someone to go and take that free safety spot and like lock it down. You're so good at it that we don't want you to go anywhere else. But like you said, they're all such willing tacklers. The Niners don't want that to go to waste either in the box. So they mix it up a lot and try to catch teams off guard. So it's got its pros and cons to it for sure.
Yeah, and I think that we're going to see another aspect of this defense with the Staley hire. I think Sorensen is going to want to take them a little bit back to what they used to do with D'Amico and kind of just disguising the coverages a little bit more. And because D'Amico, I just don't. And I've talked about this many times on my show, but D'Amico, I feel like was a mad scientist at the defensive coordinator spot. He would leave dudes wide open, like wide open on purpose, and and they would just let certain guys go, knowing that the quarterback just was not going to get to that read.
Yeah,
And it
yep.
was, I mean, what he almost he embarrassed. What was his name for the Cowboys? Dak. He embarrassed Dak. He embarrassed. There was a couple. Aaron Rodgers. Like he's embarrassed some of the best quarterbacks in the league because he would send guys from weird spots and they would just flood one side out of nowhere. It was just really, it's like kind of a masterclass on just thought process and really getting in the mind of your opponent. I really feel like was what it was. But I mean, you see it with D'Amico on how he's gotten the Texans right so quickly. Is he knows football, and that's really what it comes down to. So,
Yeah.
but
And I do want to correct something that I said earlier. I misspoke. The diabetic guy was A.D. Mitchell. That's who it was. That was the person with the red flags and the character concerns. That's who it was.
Yeah, it was like, but and I know that they have ways around that, and but like you said earlier, you have to be willing. You have to be willing to be on top of it, especially if you have those types of concerns. You've got to be wise beyond your years to just be all on top of that for teams to even want to take a chance on you. They're looking for any kind of imperfection to take away something that you do so they can get you for cheaper. So,
Yeah.
But I want to move on to, we talked about these new guys that are coming in. We talked about impacts. What, especially on the offensive side of the ball, does this, do you think that the guys that the 49ers drafted kind of show like maybe a philosophy change on Kyle's part?
I think Kyle is ready to open this offense up. I know that sounds crazy, right? He's had a year where he's averaged 29.9 points, 27.8 points, and
Mm-hmm.
things like that, right? Like we score points. But the thing is, in the postseason is where it kind of gets a little shaky. And I know we put up 30 plus against Detroit, but I mean, we had our backs against the wall and we had to come out swinging there. I don't think Kyle was happy with the offensive output against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl either of those years. But when you go out and you get some younger guys, there's a lot more speed on the offensive side of the ball. Um, and what they're gonna they have to try to rebuild the offensive line as well. I think that these guys are clearly saying, "Hey, we want more speed, we want more explosiveness from these guys," and you've got it already, right? Brandon Ayuk was what, like 20 yards a catch or something like that
Yeah,
last year, and we know how
crazy
dangerous
efficiency.
Debo is. Yeah, we know how dangerous Debo is with the ball in his hands. Um, and then you got McCaffrey. Kittle was that guy for a while. I'm not going to say he took a step back. I think he finished with 1,000 yards
Yeah,
last
he
year.
did.
But it's like, is there more that we can have? Right? As greedy as that sounds, as greedy as it sounds, right? I think Kyle wants to score every possession, obviously, but
Mm-hmm.
it's going to go beyond the whole. All right, let's analyze what the defense is giving us. Right? I think the flip is going to be Kyle would come out, he would go to his scripted plays for the first two drives, and then it's like, all right, let's see what they're giving us, and then make them pay for that in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's going to be, let's dictate what the defense is going to do and not the other way around. No more reacting to what they're going to do. Make
That's
them
what we
beat
need.
us. Yeah, we're going to
So
have so many different ways that we can take advantage of your defense that now we're going to keep your guys' head spinning all game long. That's what this year's draft crop says to me. Speed and deception. Like we're going to keep you guys guessing all game long.
yeah, I 100% agree. I think that the issue is because you had Debo had a total of 1,000 yards. You had Christian McCaffrey had 1,000 yards. You had Kittle had 1,000 yards. You had Ayuk have 1,300 yards. You have all these guys putting up all these stats, right? But when you look at the box score after each game, it's one guy going off. Usually, one guy going off. Like they're not all doing it at the same time. And I really feel like Kyle, I think you said it perfectly earlier, is that I think this is a show of them bringing speed in to where it's going to force him to come outside of himself. He needs to come outside of himself and just kind of like give the reins a little bit more to Purdy. Let him motion guys open. Like instead of just scripted motion plays to I mean, Ayuk never gets to motion everywhere, anywhere. He never gets to
Mhm.
dictate his matchup.
Right.
And I think that is the next maturation process of not just Brock Purdy, but Kyle. And
Yeah.
because Kyle needs to give up that autonomy to Purdy. I really think that he has to give him a chance to do those things. And until he does, as long as because I think we saw in the playoffs, teams are catching up to what Kyle is doing. The good teams are. Like they know what you want to do, and they're going to take that away. And the good teams are. You're going to put up all those gaudy numbers against in the regular season. This team is going to win tons of games, but when we get to when we get to these playoff matchups, and you're playing almost as good of a team as you are on the other side, can you and as good of coaching staffs? Can you still do what you do? And I think in the playoffs it kind of proved Kyle was a little. I think the players were really the only thing that got them over the hump, really, because I mean it wasn't Kyle's scheme. They were ready for Kyle's scheme, and I mean every single team they played. So like from Green Bay,
Hmm.
Detroit, all of them, they were all ready, and it showed like they struggled. So I'm looking for this season. I do agree with you that I think that there is going to be a sea change, and I think that it's going to be more about can Kyle use some speed. I'm hoping that he doesn't look at it as, oh well, I'm just going to insert some speed in here, and that's just going to make my stuff work now. We're hoping that he gets away from the 5 and 7 step drops and he kind of just improves the quick game, improves the drop back game. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. Oh, my guy Rod in the building. Appreciate you coming through, fam. Always. Make sure you check out my guy's channel on Twitch. He's DJing his behind off. Like oh man, like you want to vibe at 10 o'clock? Woo! Rod
That's
got
the
you.
place to be.
So
Yeah, I've been seeing him doing this thing out there, man, setting the vibe. You know, nice tone and every. Oh man, you love to see it. You absolutely love to see it.
So when we talk about Purdy, and do you think Kyle is even capable of giving up some of that power to Purdy?
That is a phenomenal question, and I would love to say yes. I would love to say yes, but I just don't know. I don't know. He's so like not today. Like, and I think what we have to do is get Kyle with someone consistently as his quarterback first. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Once he gets that, then I think he'll feel a little bit better. But so this will be Purdy's third year in the system, back-to-back starting years here. And we've got to see it in the regular season. I think Purdy showed that, like, hey, you can trust me to do some things. That Lions game, you know, while he had some good numbers and all that, he came, that comeback was largely in part due to his legs.
Yes.
You know, and that's where I want Kyle to like stick with it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that we want to see Purdy running all over the place. That's not what I'm saying at all. But
Purdy said he wants to do RPOs.
Yeah. Right. Like, he's asking for it. So what you got to do is just trust the guy. Like, you got to trust the guy, let him go out there and do his thing. And see what he can do. Kyle's got to learn to release just a little bit, like show a little bit of trust in the guys, because you can't always do that only when, all right, guys, we're down 3 scores. Let's just see what happens. That's no way to go through it. You got to have faith and trust that your guys has the ability to do it. So I think he's going, I think he'll show a little bit more during the regular season. The question is, in the biggest games, will he put the clamps back on? That's what I want to know. I want to know how it plays out in the postseason.
I'll be honest with you. I love Kyle to death. I want Kyle to succeed. I can't stand it when people talk all this fire Kyle stuff from time to time, but I will tell you, it is maddening having the best roster in football, the most offensive weapons, and somehow and a coach that is supposed to be an offensive genius, and we just, in those crunch times, we just can't make a play. Just can't make a play. And it's, and to your point of what you were saying earlier, that's what gives me so much hope for this offense is when Purdy in that Detroit game, when he just decided, okay, like the passing stuff ain't working. Like they're jumping all these routes. I'm gonna take off. They not looking for me to run. So I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna do what I need to do and get it done and get us through this. That takes tremendous maturation in the playoffs from a young player like that. That's huge. It's huge. And that is the thing that I think Kyle has to go back and look at and say, I need to do better for Purdy. I think I think that he needs to look inside. Now, will he? I don't think he will. Like, let's just be real. Kyle is an egomaniac. I mean, with a capital E. Like he is just it's wild. I don't think I've ever seen a coach just refuse to take responsibility for like when the game plan doesn't work out and always blames the execution. I've never seen it that bad. Like and so I'm gonna be looking, and that's why I think I was so mad at the Pearsall pick, was because, and I tweeted out at the time, this screams lack of accountability from Kyle. Because he's looking for another weapon instead of the meat and potatoes to just protect his quarterback. Right. And people can say that Pearsall might be a great player. He might be a great player, and I understand we're setting it up for next year. Who knows what's going to happen with Debo? I get it, but at the same time, there is no you're planning to pay this man Purdy a whole bunch of money. You've got to protect him better than McKivitz and a John Feliciano kind of a journeyman on the I mean, you've got to be able to run to the right side. They can't even run to the right side right now. So yeah, it is what it is. But I don't think. Long story short, I don't think that Kyle is gonna be able to fully give Purdy the reins. I think it might take more time. And like you said, in the playoffs, I fully expect Kyle to clinch up and do what Kyle does in those moments and just call some random double motion fullback dive and yeah, it's gonna get. I think Purdy is going to have to show so much in the regular season for Kyle to ride it out with him, and I don't know if he can show enough in this second season. So I'll be interesting to see it.
And that was something that I felt, even from the Jimmy days, like he's just a little too controlling with the quarterbacks. Like he wants them to do what he wants them to do. But if that's the case, there's no purpose in drafting talent. There's no purpose in bringing in talent. If you want everyone to do the same exact thing that you want them to do all the time, it's one thing to be able to execute what the coach is asking you to do. But then what's the value in the talent at the position?
Exactly.
Where does the real value come in? Like Patrick Mahomes isn't special because he can do exactly what Andy Reid wants him to do. It's when plays break down, when the coverage is tight. What are you going to do to improvise? What can you do with the scramble drills? What can you do with your legs? That's where we need to see Kyle take the next step.
And people, they kind of poo-pooed it at the time, but somebody, and I wish I could give them the credit because I can't remember who it was that posted it, but you talked about the Jimmy Garoppolo, Jimmy G, and Jimmy G's numbers weren't far off from Purdy's. Now, if you watch the games, it's miles and miles away from what Jimmy G was doing, but the numbers themselves weren't far off. And
hey, I said that and got killed, man.
And Jimmy G, this is the thing about Jimmy G, didn't have the weapons that Purdy had at the time. Right. He had Kendrick Bourne. He had he had a rookie Debo when he was getting those numbers, and he had a aging Emmanuel Sanders. So it's just it's different. It's different. Like, so the what I'm trying to say is that Kyle can scheme it up. That if you're going to get the same production, out of, to your point, I mean, not the greatest of weapons. What is the point of having those weapons?
Yeah. And, it's weird. So when Kyle wants to show someone that he trusts them at the quarterback position, it's like, all right, let's let you throw 37, 45 times in the game. And it doesn't have to be that. It doesn't. That's not what it means to trust your quarterback. You know what I mean? Like, let's just put the ball in his hands more. There were times during the Super Bowl, the most important drives all started with like 3 and outs coming out at halftime. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? How do you not run at all? It's like, and people say, oh, it's hindsight. It's hindsight. No, I was saying this during the drives. Like, are you kidding me? We're not going to go to him at all. The first drive in overtime, I'm like, you were scaring the heck out of me. If it weren't for that flag, that drive was dead. That was another 3 and out after overtime, and all they had to do was score, and then that game was over. If it weren't for that flag, right? And it's like, Kyle, you got to give these guys, like, you got to let Christian McCaffrey run the ball and just see what you can get. So we're not in 3rd and 10 as soon as overtime starts, as soon as the second half starts. So
yeah, you can't. CMC cannot not touch the ball. Like, right. And we're going to complain later when he gets 30 carries and Elijah Mitchell and the rest of them don't touch any. But still, I would rather complain about that than you to not give him the ball in the biggest moments.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, CMC has earned that.
At the very least, it can't be 3 consecutive passes. It can't be. When you see that your quarterback is shaken up like that, you can't do it. If he's just off of rhythm a little bit, you can't do it. You gotta let him. You got to let these guys run the ball, make it 2nd and 6. I don't care. It doesn't have to be a home run every time they carry the ball, but it's better than 2nd and 10.
And at the very least, you could be setting a play action at the very least. But this is the problem with that. your offensive line can't hold can't hold on a play action because teams
Right.
are just playing so close to the line that you can't even see who the blitzer is because everybody's at the line.
Mm-hmm.
And then the protection scheme breaks down and you're stuck. Like, I mean, so it's it's just there's no easy answer, but the answer for Kyle, I think all of us have looked at the situation. The answer that I think most people have come up with is that Kyle just needs to change up, to throw a change up every now and then. Don't
Yeah.
don't just do what you do because that's what you do. And because you know that this play is supposed to beat that coverage because of the rules of the coverage and like all the other stuff. Sometimes you've got better players than that other team does.
Mm-hmm.
Go out
Yeah.
there and let your guys do what they do. Let them get open. Call a basic route, a basic route combination, and let your quarterback make the read and get it to his man. It's as simple as that. And I feel like that's what Andy Reid does with Pat Mahomes is that he has that much trust in him that he'll call some basic stuff
Yeah.
and then just trust that Pat Mahomes is going to make the right play.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
sometimes that's all it is.
And you just made a
Oh, Dion in the
phenomenal
house.
point. Dion's in here. What's going on, D? You just made a phenomenal point, right? Like you just gotta like it has to be something different. You know what I mean? Like I like that. I like the way you phrase it. I won't even touch it. Won't even touch it, man. It's good. It's good.
But so before we get out of here, I want to talk about we've still got a lot of offseason left. We haven't gotten to OTAs yet. So there's still a lot of free agents out there, serviceable free agents. And maybe some trades to be had. I know the 49ers have done trades in the past, like right before camp or right after camp. Is there anybody in the free agency market or trade targets out there that you could see the 49ers really going after and solidifying a spot?
Oh man. Um I think if you look at the remaining free agents, let's start there if you don't mind, because I think that the trades won't happen until the season gets going, and that's when you'll see something along the lines of like, all right, this guy or this group isn't what I expected it to be. So I don't think that we're going to be doing anything like as far as trades go right away. But it depends on how did Justin Simmons sign anywhere?
No, not yet. He's still
I
out
mean,
there. That's who I
yeah,
thought of.
I know he's 30. He's going to be a guy that's out there that might be able to do a little bit of something. Talk about older guys, but what I don't know, man. Like Adoree Jackson's still out there.
Mm.
I'm not really a OBJ type of guy. Does Micah Hyde have anything left in the tank? I know about the injuries and stuff like that. And whatever happened with Tyler Boyd, is he still available? If these receivers aren't picking up the playbook fast enough, is that going to be enough to say, hey, maybe we go after him? He's out here. We know he can run some good routes, and I like him as a comp to, believe it or not. I thought maybe if there was a chance that Brandon Ayuk got traded, the Niners might have brought in Tyler Boyd as a stopgap and then draft a wide receiver. You know what I mean? Like that's what I was thinking before the draft. If we were to see him moved. So those would be a couple of names that I would look at for the 49ers. And then, of course, I'm going to get killed when I say this, but if the corners are struggling all of a sudden, we get hit with a couple of injuries.
Yeah.
My guy, Kella Witherspoon, is still available, man.
Oh,
I know people don't want to talk about him, but he's available, man. He's available, man.
He's always available.
Don't do that. That's not nice. That's not nice. But he started the season really, really well last year. He was doing good. He worked his way into the Steelers a couple of years ago with the Rams, and he's put together really good stretches of games. And he could be a guy. I don't think it's likely. I know there was some bad blood when he left here. I don't think it's likely. But God forbid there's some injuries or something like that to the secondary and we get decimated. He could be a guy that the Niners get a little desperate and say, hey, AK, come on back, man. You know what we like to do on defense. He's got good speed, good size. I think he might be a late call.
I'm gonna leave that one alone. I'm gonna leave that one alone. Like I'm gonna let you have that one. I will say that I love what you said about Justin Simmons. I think he's definitely a candidate. As a vet, like you need those vet pieces, and the 49ers are already one of the older teams in the NFL now, which is crazy to even think. But yeah, I think that there are going to be more guys that get released in the next few weeks, just because of the guys that were brought on in the draft, and especially when we get to OTAs, when training camp starts, I think that's when the 49ers pick up somebody. They're going to pick somebody up. And I don't know if we know who it's going to be. I'm hoping that a vet offensive tackle becomes available.
Well, there is a guy. Now he played majority left side, but Andrews Pete from the Saints.
Okay,
he's a veteran guy that's still out there. Now, again, he's getting a little long in the tooth, but I mean, not much longer in the tooth than Trent, right? So, and he started 102 games for the Saints. He primarily plays left tackle, but he can even come in and play some left guard if you need him to in a pinch. So he's a guy that also could be out there and for the offensive line if we need it.
That might be. Yeah, I there's a couple of guys that I think might get pushed out by the rookies that were brought in, with so many offensive tackles being drafted in this last draft high, that I think that you could find some vets on the chopping block, and so I'm looking to wait for those dominoes to fall, and I just need somebody better than McKivitz. That's Can you be better than McKivitz? Can you make two steps to the left or the right?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So there was this, they talked to Mike McGlinchey and the final year of his contract, and they said that they were very upfront with him when the season started. They said that if we get the right trade offer for you, we're going to move you. Right. And so that always stood out in my mind. It was like, what was their plan if someone knocked on that door and said, hey, we'll give you a second or a third from Mike McGlinchey? What was their plan? Do you think it was McKivitz all along?
Oh, yeah. Like, that's Kyle's ego. I'm telling you. He doesn't think. He thinks of the offensive line. See, and I think that people don't understand the depths. The depths deep inside of Kyle. He don't care. He does not care about what you think, what I think, what Grant thinks, what whoever. Like, he looks at those offensive linemen like it's that magnetic football. And like, these guys are just sitting out there and they just need to stand there. They just need to stand there. If I can just get you to stand there and make the guy run around you, that's going to give me he's already calculated that's going to give him an extra second for the quarterback. Right. And if the quarterback executes and hits the guy when he's supposed to, it's not an issue.
Yeah.
That's Kyle's mentality. And I've seen enough of his press conferences to know that is his mentality. And it's not a secret at this point. So, I know that was this man got up there and said Jalen Moore is a talented player a couple days ago.
I mean,
not a couple of years ago when they drafted him. A couple of days ago, after what we've seen from him, he's not talented. Stop.
In their defense, oh man, how can I spin this positively? In their defense, he didn't say how talented. he said he's
talented at checkers. Like at spades, he can play spades.
Oh my god. Oh man, but it's weird. We got to see how things shake out. And like I said, there are some veteran linemen that are out there. And if Justin Simmons is too old for some people, they don't want to go with that guy. I mean, even Quandre Diggs is out there, right? I mean, he's an older guy also.
Yeah, that's
but
wild. I
Couple
would take
Pro
him.
Bowls under his belt. I would be cool with Simmons or Diggs coming in.
Diggs. I think Diggs would be ideal because he's played in somewhat a similar system as the 49ers.
Yeah. Simmons is 30, Diggs is 31. I mean, I don't think there's much of a difference between those two guys. So,
Yeah.
and if his contract wasn't the way it was, I'm willing to bet that he would still be there in Seattle.
Mm-hmm. I think that man, that coach came in scorched earth and was like, I don't want no remnants of what they were doing before. I
Right.
don't want nothing. Pete Carroll, you need to get out of here. We taking off all your posters, like all your pictures down off the wall. Like it's
And he's still in the building, right? He's doing something
Yeah.
there. He's like in the front office or something like that. It was like, yeah, we like you can stay, but nah, bro. Like, nah.
Yeah.
It's
All
like when
of-
Harbaugh came to the Niners, right? He said
Yeah.
that they said he went down and took all like the greats off the wall. Like none of that shit matters anymore. We have to accomplish our own thing here now. Like none of that matters.
It is
and
true.
so I kind of get that. I get that. I understand it.
It is true, but it's wild when he's sitting in your face every day. And we're gonna act like it didn't happen.
Very different, right?
Yeah.
Very different.
But man, Mike, I appreciate you coming through. I had a great time having you on talking 49er, what could be's and what should be's and what the possibilities that are out there with Kyle and everything. But why don't you tell everybody where they can find you on the socials and everywhere they can find your content?
Yeah, guys, I'm live now on my Twitter. My personal Twitter is Mike Andrews 83. I don't do a lot of tweeting. It's just not my thing anymore, but I am there. I do see some things. I like to retweet and promote things that I see I like out there. So if you guys want to follow me personally, that's where you can get me, Mike Andrews 83. It's the name right there at the bottom. And then, like I said, on YouTube, Nothing But Niners. Just search for us on YouTube or on Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff. You guys can find us there. Can I ask you one more question? Now, it's going to be a tough one.
Absolutely.
I'll put you in a tough spot.
I know. I'm all about it.
If you had to choose today to go into this season without either Brandon Ayuk or Deebo Samuel, which one are you moving on from?
Oh, Deebo in a heartbeat.
Wow. You didn't even hesitate. Why?
No,
why so?
no.
Why?
I've thought about this many times. I've thought about this many times because I do shows too, bro.
I know, but you sound like you've been convinced, and like it's not even a second thought.
Well,
like
because this is the
right
thing. This is the thing about Kyle that I've noticed. I'm a big people person. I like to break down people's thought processes, and my thing is when CMC, I didn't want CMC when he first got here because I was like, well, we're going to waste CMC's talents because Kyle doesn't like throwing to running backs until CMC got in the building. And now all of a sudden he's throwing to running backs all over the place. He could have been doing that before CMC, but he didn't.
Yeah.
And the player had to give him an excuse to do that. So now you take Deebo out of the equation, and I feel like that takes away those wasted snaps doing the wide back stuff that's played out and that isn't working anymore. It's just not working anymore. And you remove a guy that honestly, I love Deebo. I love the fact that he could take it to the house on any given play, but the man doesn't give maximum effort. On plays that he knows are not going to him. He's not the greatest of blockers, which is weird to say. He's not the greatest. He ain't the greatest route runner. And I think that when you're talking about Purdy being the quarterback now and not Jimmy G or not one of the other also ran quarterbacks that we used to have, it's all about making Brock more comfortable at this point. And I think that Ayuk has sacrificed his opportunities in the past to give Deebo snaps.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that Brandon Ayuk should have been the primary last year. I thought that they should have, and he was not. He was never he was hardly ever the first read, and he was breaking dudes off. And teams knew that he wasn't going to be the first read. Yeah. And sometimes they would leave him wide open, and Brock can't even get to the other side of the formation.
Oh my God!
You know what I'm saying?
I don't know if you follow Rich Madrid on Twitter.
Oh yeah. I love
Rich is
Rich.
Rich and I have a very we both respect each other. We'll go back and forth. Well, we used to. I haven't done it in a while. We go back and forth with each other, when we disagree on something. But
Oh yeah,
I
Rich
love
disagrees
the
with
way
everybody.
Rich, yeah, I love the way he thinks. I
Yeah.
love the outside of the box thinking.
Mhm.
And he did this cut up of Brandon Ayuk just running routes for no reason in the Super Bowl. And bro, it makes me sick to my stomach to
Oh,
see how open
it's sick.
Ayuk was so much during the Super Bowl.
During the whole
It,
season.
bro,
The
that's what I'm saying. It was just one game that he did that with.
Yeah.
Now imagine seeing the cut ups week after. I might call Rich and ask him to do that. Like, can you give me a game by game breakdown of just Ayuk just cooking people, just leaving them in their tracks, and the play's not even designed to go in that direction or that side of the field.
Now, would it happen? Would it happen if he is the focal point? Because now all of a sudden you're getting double teamed. I don't know. But I think that would open up the door for somebody else to walk through. And and I think if Purdy was allowed the autonomy to make the right read, I think Purdy could do that. And but I think
what does that look like? So is that as simple as Kyle just calling a play and not saying what the reads are? Like, is that because a play is designed with reads built into it? Like every play has its first read in there.
I think that you can have the reads in there, but I think that you've got to give Purdy the autonomy to motion a guy and turn and call something at the line of scrimmage if he doesn't like what he sees. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And and it's really just about okay, Ayuk's on. Obviously, they're bracketing him right here. What if I move him over to the other side of the formation, and that forces them to leave a linebacker on Kittle to the on this side. Now you leave that guy, that linebacker or that safety on an island with Kittle, and you see what I'm saying? You can do.
Yeah.
It's not just Madden. It's not just Madden. Some of this stuff actually works in real life, and we see other teams do it. We see other teams do it, and it would be one thing if we didn't see it happen, but we see other teams do it, and we just wonder. I know I'm not the only one. I know a lot of guys out there wonder why we can't, as a 49ers, why we can't do that. We've got all this talent on this team, but we can't find a way to motion guys up and take advantage of mismatches. Kyle doesn't take advantage of mismatches. We talked about that a million times, and he just does not care about mismatches. It's about his scheme breaking down their defense and or the rules of their defense, whatever you want to call it. And I think at some point you have to take advantage of the mismatches.
Yeah, you said that earlier about how we line up against an opposing defense. I would say 90% of the time, our skill position players on offense are better than your skill position players on the opposing side. I don't know a defense that matches up position for position and is better than the 49ers.
There is none.
I don't know if many of them exist. And so if that's the case, it should be all right. When the defense is on the field, coach, this guy can't fuck with. I'm sorry, I don't want to curse on you. This guy can't. This guy can't hold me, bro. He can't hold me. Look at what's going on. It's get beyond the scheme and start trusting the talent that's out there. And that's what's missing from this team. That's exactly what's missing from the team.
Yeah, I mean that's the long and short of my answer on that question. I would give up Debo because I think it would force Kyle to change how he thought about the offense.
Oh, I wish I had my bell over here, but ding ding, that's it right there. I think Debo. I've said it for the last 2 years. I used to watch the Charlie Brown Peanuts thing, right? And there's this character in there named Linus. Linus can't function without
I'm old, bro. I know
blanket.
Linus.
Yeah, but he can't function without his blanket. Kyle can't function without Debo on the. Not saying that we can't score points without Debo. People are going to say, "Oh, we put up 30 points in this guy." Guys, I know, but the confidence just is different when Debo is on the field for some reason, for better or worse.
And Debo tells him what he's going to run sometimes.
Come on, bro. Come on, bro.
That can't be that. The inmates can't be running the asylum. Okay,
exactly. Exactly.
You got to be a leader at some and just tell them, hey, can you just run your route, even if the ball ain't supposed to go to you? Can you just run your route?
Yeah.
Can you just do your job?
Yeah.
And
Can you block?
I
Because
mean,
there was a play where Purdy's scrambling,
yeah.
and then he runs into the back of Debo because Debo started half-assing the blocking assignment
Oh,
because
yeah.
it was a broken down play, and it's like, oh, this ball's not coming to me. I'm going to stay over here. There was a big play to Ayuk in the playoffs. I don't remember which game it was exactly.
Yeah, I can't. I can't
I don't want to
remember
waste
either.
time.
I know which
But
one
there
you're
was
talking about. I can't.
There was a
remember
play to
either.
Ayuk, and if Debo had just picked up his block, he'd have been able to cut behind him, and it would have been a touchdown. It was a big gain, but it could have been a score. You know what I mean?
For
And
sure.
it's like you can't leave those opportunities out there. Kyle would have so many other players benched because of the lack of blocking effort.
Yeah, that's.
But Debo, for some reason, just seems to be exempt by it. I just don't get it.
I mean, Ayuk has got to be furious at times. He's got to be furious. Like he says that he just wants to be here and he wants to be a part of this team. And I think that him and Debo are actually boys. Like I get it. Like, but man,
I don't think so. I don't think
you don't think so. Oh, really?
I've never seen a picture of the two of them outside of the facility.
Okay.
I've never seen them hanging out. Listen, Trey Lance was here for a fart in the wind. Like he was here for this long, and we saw videos of them
him with
out
Ayuk all
together. Yeah, it was like, all right, this is my quarterback. I'm out with this guy. Like they built a friendship. They built a friendship in a very short amount of time. I've never seen that. And not that I have to see that to believe it, but it's even the way they celebrate when one guy gets in the end zone, right? It's like, are we going to do a handshake now? Or are we just going to run up and chest bump each other? Like, it's not consistent enough for me to feel it. One of them scored in the Lions game, I think it was. And then the other guy just kind of ran in and slid on his back. It was like, I want to celebrate with you, but you're not even looking my way. I'm just going to slide down here while you're celebrating the touchdown. You just go. It's awkward. It's awkward. So I don't think they're actually friends. I don't. I think that they're good associates, right? Like you go to work and you talk to people and you get along with people, but that doesn't mean that we're friends. I don't think that there's a real friendship there. They don't have to be.
No, they don't.
Yeah,
they don't. But I could see it because I'll tell you, if I was Ayuk, I'd be hot all the time. Like I'm out here busting these dudes. I'm blocking dudes all over the place, and I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to. And yet I was put in the doghouse.
Come on. Oh, all right.
How am I put in the doghouse? Like Debo out here wilding out, wilding out, saying whatever, and like not like you said, half-assing the blocks. Like I mean, the route running. I'd be hot. Like I mean, now they paid him, but I think that is part of the reason why I honestly I think that that's going to be part of the negotiation process with Ayuk is that hey, understand like I don't think that they're going to tell him that Debo's going to be gone next year, but he's gonna they could without saying it they could just say, hey, look, like we're planning on featuring you with Purdy.
Yeah.
That is the plan.
And Briscoe, he said he's the fourth option on the run first team. He didn't even say third because he's well aware. He's well aware of the pecking order on this team.
Yet and still he get 1,300.
Yeah, come on.
He gonna get 1,300.
The least
1,300.
They looked at the yards that he was able to obtain, and it was like significantly less than anybody with his in the same vicinity of him. Like the attempts, the passes, the receptions, the targets. It wasn't even close to the other receivers in the NFL with the same amount of targets. It wasn't close. Now, like you said, if he is the number one and they start bracketing him, does he have that same level of success? And we don't know that. And that's a very, very fair statement that you made there. There's ebbs and flows to it all. As teams start to key in on you, the production should go down some. It absolutely should go down. So I get that. That was a very fair assessment that you made there. And that's why I think Kyle feels all these pieces are needed here. I don't want to see this team broken up. I would love to see this team as currently constructed with the plug-in of a couple of pieces from the offensive rookies. I would like to see it stick together for just one full season. Next year, not obtainable.
Exactly.
I completely understand that. Next year, someone's going to be gone, whether it be Kittle, whether it be Debo, whether it be Ayuk, one of those big three. You know what? Let me even throw McCaffrey in there. You might have two of those four guys going next year. But I would like to see what we can do if we get everyone here for one more season and you sprinkle in some Pearsall, you sprinkle in some Cowing, you
That's
sprinkle in
it.
some Garindo. Oh man,
Yeah, that's it.
and I'm done. I'm done.
Like,
That's it.
because I mean, look, like, because Ayuk's gonna be your X, right? Ayuk's gonna be your X. If we can get Pearsall to be a justifiable Y,
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
and if we can just get that out of him, and him just showing the ability this season to be a Y, and like, and it has to be a Y. It can't be a slot. It can't be a slot. He's
Right.
got to be the threat has to be there for him to be a Y. And like, if he can just get that, next year is going to be so much easier for Ayuk, because now you've got a guy that's going, and odds are Pearsall's gonna take somewhat of a jump. Like, I mean, we're looking kind of far in the future right now, but if he can show like glimpses and flashes, then I would be confident. Who knows who they're going to get in the offseason, who they're going to get in like the draft at that point. But they're it's going to be because Kittle going to be older. There's all kinds of different ways to
Mm-hmm.
think about it, but that there just needs to be a threat. There has to be a threat on the other side so that teams can't, like you said, bracket IU. Because I think
Yeah.
I am a full believer that if you go 1-on-1, IU can cook. There's nobody in this league that IU can't cook.
Come on, bro. Oh man, you cooking. You cooking.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it is what it is. But yeah, I would Debo would be my prime candidate.
Okay. All right.
But I
Ask and I
appreciate
shall
you.
receive. Listen, man, this was a lot of fun, man. You let me know when you want to do it again, and we will make it happen, man. Like I said, I enjoy coming on other shows and just getting be able to sit down and just answer questions and just share my thoughts. So this was a lot of fun. I really, really appreciate it. And by the way, I want you to let people know where to find you for the people that are viewing from my channel as well.
Oh, absolutely. I was just about to get to that part. So, Niner Fanatic Podcast. We are on YouTube. We are on Twitter. We are on Facebook. We are on Twitch now. And if you don't like looking at my face, there's the audio version. You can get anywhere you can get an audio podcast. I don't care where you get it. Just get it. And make sure that you tell a friend to tell a friend so we can be friends every day, every week. And yeah, like I said, I really appreciate you coming on. Great vibe. Like and I just love talking football. So it's so yeah, I appreciate having you on. And the feeling is mutual, bro. Anytime if for whatever reason you're having a slow day and you say, man, I just need a body.
Mm.
I just need a body.
Well,
Like you can always reach out.
I'm going to hold you to it. I'm
Yeah.
going to
Oh
hold you
yeah.
to it.
You let
So
me know. Just as long as it's not the morning.
no. I know you're on the West.
I'm
Well,
in
you doing
Houston.
you're East Coast.
I'm
Okay.
in
So you're
Houston.
in your Eastern time zone?
Yeah, like Central.
Oh, it's Central. Okay. So okay, you're not that far behind me. All right. I'll keep
But
that in mind, man. Yeah, but I know I'm usually busy in the mornings. It's I'm a late guy, so this is
yeah,
cool with me.
I work all day. So but yeah, like I appreciate having you on. Hey, I appreciate everybody in the chat. The chat was cracking
Mhm.
tonight, and like I appreciate everybody for coming in and listening and giving us your time, because you could be anywhere but you were here with us. So I really appreciate it, and I will see you guys next Tuesday. Remember, Niner Fanatic Podcast. I will see you next Tuesday with Beto and Brandon, and yeah, let's keep it moving. But until then, as always, go Niners.